Welcome to Plano Police Department's True Crimes with Officer Bianez, a podcast dedicated to learning how criminals select their targets and what you can do to not be a victim. During each program, police officer, crime prevention specialist, and certified speaking professional Chris Bianez teams up with a safety expert to discover crime trends and how you can protect yourself. Because that's what this podcast is all about, increasing the safety for you, your family, identity, and property. It's Plano Police Department's True Crimes with Officer Bianez. Take it away, Chris.
Welcome to Plano Police True Crimes. I'm your host, Officer Chris Bianez. Joining me back in the studio today is John-Mark Meulman, the Program Administrator for Collin County Substance Abuse Program. John-Mark, welcome back.
Thanks, Chris. I'm glad to be here and appreciate you having me back.
What are we going to be talking about today?
Chris, we're talking about fentanyl, which is a powerful synthetic opioid.
Why would this topic be important to those who are either watching or listening to the program?
Well, I've been running the Collin County Substance Abuse Program for 6 years, and we've watched an alarming increase in this drug and the number of deaths attributable to it. And it's reached a point where it's considered to be an epidemic, and the general public needs to be aware of what's going on with this drug.
Well, we're eager to learn more about it, so why don't you unpack some of the things that you've been seeing?
Okay, so just to kind of put things in perspective for you, fentanyl was really not on my radar screen 6 years ago when I started working for the county. And just over the last 3 years, we've seen exponential increases in the number of overdose deaths directly attributable to fentanyl. Just to put that in perspective for you, in 2020, 29% of the drug overdose deaths that I tracked through the medical examiner's office were fentanyl. The very next year in 2021, 49% of the drug overdose deaths were fentanyl related. And then this year we just closed out and 55% of the deaths were fentanyl related.
Big increase.
Exactly. And that's in line with national statistics as well. The DEA published an article and said that they saw about a 28.5% increase, from 2020 to 2021 in the number of fentanyl-related deaths.
I've heard something on the news, John-Mark, that today people don't even recognize that they think they're consuming some drug, but it's laced with fentanyl. Can you talk about different things you've heard about and learned about?
Absolutely, and that's really what we want to do a lot of education about. Most of these drugs are being manufactured in China and or Mexico, and the cartels are getting them across the border and into the States. But drug dealers are using fentanyl to cut all drugs, anything that's being made synthetically, and the reason is just sheer economics. It's a cheap drug to manufacture, and it's so potent. I saw a statistic by the DEA that 42% of the pills that they had confiscated had been laced with fentanyl. Very
serious because of like you said, it's so lethal.
Yeah, so 2,000 micrograms can be a potentially lethal dose, and just to kind of put that in perspective for you, that would fit on the head of a penny. I mean, it's just that small of a dose, and so there's really so little margin for error. The question came to my mind is, it doesn't seem good economics to kill your clients, but I think it's just the drug dealers and the people that are involved in that business are obviously not concerned with public safety, and it's such a cheap way to manufacture. It just lowers the manufacturing process because you can make it so incredibly potent. And then factors come into consideration as well, like your body weight and how much you're using the drug, tolerance. All of those things go into what would constitute a lethal dose for somebody.
I know when we talk about statistics, it's not that it's cold, but it's not as impactful as when you realize these are real lives that are affected. Without sharing names, protecting privacy. Can you tell us some stories of things that you've dealt with, people's lives have been affected by this?
Yeah, so it's like I've worked with the medical examiner's office, for ever since I've been with the county, and was on an adult fatality review board where we review cases that were done, where the medical examiner did an autopsy or reviewed the case, and so I track those statistics. So I see names every month, and it's really the thing that's really been disheartening and concerning is the number of younger people that we're seeing. We saw, first of all, there's no respecter with regards to age with this drug. The lowest, we had a 15-year-old who died of a fentanyl overdose this year, and we had a 77-year-old who died of a fentanyl overdose this year. And so, we've got a wide range, but we're seeing an increase in the number of young people using the drugs. We know it's made its way into the schools. We do substance abuse education for juvenile probation, and my counterpart, Misty Harris, was asking the kids what drugs they had done, and several of them had tried fentanyl. She was talking to one of the young people about it, and was just the euphoria associated with the high, and he said he could actually see the colors in the air. So that's what this drug will get its hooks into you really, really quickly. I was on we did a piece where we aired a broadcast about fentanyl up in McKinney, and I had parents come up to me who had lost loved ones and had no idea that they were doing that. And so the other thing is we had a 15-year-old female at a McKinney high school who was trying marijuana in the bathroom for the first time, and it was laced with fentanyl. Now, she didn't die, but she had to be taken to the emergency room. And so again, I don't care, it's like something that's benign. You think you're doing marijuana, it's like it can be laced with fentanyl. There's all these other drugs that are being cut with it. And it's like playing Russian roulette with a loaded gun. I mean, it's just, because of the lethality of this drug, you just may not get a second chance.
Yeah, very serious. So what advice would you have for parents? What kind of a conversation should they be having with their children, and what do they need to know?
Well, so, at Collin County Substance Abuse Program, we offer free adolescent substance abuse evaluations. And one of the things that, I'm struck with in working with parents of adolescents is a lot of times they're unaware, and sometimes, you can't afford to be naive about this. You can't afford to be ignorant, and a lot of times parents don't want to talk about this until it's, it's in their house. And so that's too late. So you need to be proactive. Parents can't afford to ignore these things. They need to be proactive in talking to their adolescents, their teens about this. I'm a big advocate of random drug testing for all teenage kids. And the reason I say that is it doesn't have to be a heavy-handed thing. It can be a positive thing where you celebrate, when they're negative. But if the kids know they're going to be tested, it gives them an out, because a lot of this stuff is peer pressure. The kids are pressured into doing something. They're at a party, maybe they're drinking some alcohol, inhibitions are lowered, and then somebody offers them a pill. And they may say yes to something, but if they know they're going to be drug tested, it gives them an out. It gives them a way to, resist that peer pressure. It seems like there's a myth with, teen sex, with suicide, and with, drug use, where if we talk about it, they're going to do it. That is a complete myth. I mean, they're talking about it. They're doing it. Social media, Instagram, all of those types of things. And the other thing is just to be aware of the social media. There's a dark web, and there's a pernicious side to all of that. Statistics show that most kids have 2 Snapchat accounts, the ones that their parents know about, and another one. And, all of this stuff is available out there on the dark web, readily available. And so, you just can't afford to be ignorant about it. We make it our business to know all the latest trends and all of this. We talk to the teens. We know, what they're doing, how they're hiding stuff. We try to stay up on the lingo, which is constantly evolving. But just reach out to us. I mean, all of our services are free for adolescents. We do education, and it's like we deal with the consequences of substance abuse in adults every day. So we really want to do more early intervention, and the key is getting to them early, because again, with this drug, too late, it means somebody's died.
What about, John-Mark, these parents that they, in their earlier days, they use drugs and they don't really feel comfortable. They might even feel it's hypocritical for them to tell their kids don't do that. What would you say to them who are battling with those questions?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, you can being a parent is just by nature is hypocritical. I have adult children, and you just can't afford to. You can use those things as life lessons. You can say, yeah, I made some bad choices, and I tell this to kids all the time because I started drinking alcohol at 13, to self-medicate some depression. And I tell them, I realize now if I could go back, I would do things differently. And so I share that with them and then share that it didn't work out so well for me. But, the stakes are much lower today. Just let's talk about weed for a minute. The THC content in marijuana back when I was growing up was probably 8 to 10%. I've talked to narcotics officers who are seeing, THC levels of over 30%, in marijuana. It's like super weed. This stuff's made in labs, and then they're doing the THC concentrate, which is 90% pure THC, the dabs and wax and all of that kind of stuff. But the stakes are just much higher. I mean, with this fentanyl, you may try it one time on a whim, and that's it. I mean, you don't get another chance because really, if you don't have a tolerance to the drug, you're even that much more susceptible to a dose potentially being lethal. Also like Narcan, which is used to save a lot of lives, it'll actually reverse the effects of an overdose. It's not as effective with fentanyl. It takes almost double the dosage, and it's like we've seen, a lot of people who heroin using, powerful opioids who, have been resuscitated via Narcan, but with fentanyl, it's just not as effective. So, it's like, we were able as young people, I mean, we made a lot of mistakes, but again, the stakes were lower. It wasn't like you're going to try it one time. I mean, you do LSD and have a bad trip. I mean, you hear stories about that and remember that from the 60s and 70s, but, one time could kill you now.
So what would you say to young men and young women?
I would say, listen, I get it. It's tough being a young person today. There's a lot of pressures. I talk a lot about that. Pandemics and just all of these pressures and things like that. And, I understand needing to alter the way that you feel. I mean, if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, and you don't know how to change the way you feel, a substance may sound like a good, way to do that. And I did that, with alcohol. I have a son who, became a substance user, and, it was all untreated mental health things that led to that. So don't suffer in silence, let somebody know. I mean, the tragedy of all of this, both substance use disorders and mental illness, is, the treatment is readily available. All of this stuff, can be helped. And, it's like, it's just not worth it. It's like the stakes are too high. I know as a young person, I felt that, I was invulnerable and, nothing's going to happen to me. And, I had all of that stuff. But, I've seen, the parents who have lost, 14, 15-year-olds and the devastation that's caused, and it's just not worth it. And the truth is, it's like if you're, for young people, I would just encourage them to find what they're passionate about and pursue their passions. I was so disconnected from, myself and what I wanted to do, and, that opened the door to needing to, change the way I felt. If you're struggling, reach out, call us. I mean, we're counselors. We get it. Both the other counselor and myself, we both have, struggled with our own substance abuse and mental health issues. We have children who have struggled with the mental health and substance abuse issues. And, it's like we're passionate about recovery. We're both in long-term recovery, and, we've developed meaningful lives where we don't need to medicate anymore, and you can too.
So, John-Mark, where would they go for help?
Okay, so obviously we're an alternative. So we're not in the treatment business. We do assessments, evaluation, education, and referral. But all of our services for adolescents are free, but we make it our business to know where to send people, whether they have insurance, they don't have insurance. We deal with a lot of low-income, indigent folks. It's just the nature of our business, and we're constantly networking to know the treatment facilities. The other one that you need to know is Lifepath Systems. Systems, who's the behavioral health authority for Collin County. Jenna Stevens is my counterpart over there. She runs their OSAR, Outreach Screening, Assessment, and Referral Program. Anyone can walk in off the street and get a substance abuse evaluation from Lifepath Systems. If you don't have insurance, that's what they're there for. They're there for, folks who don't have the means. And so we work really closely with them. And there's a lot of good treatment, options available. But I just would say, give us a call, come in. It's a free evaluation. We bring the parents in, we require the parents be involved in the process. But it's just a matter of coming in and talking about these things, bringing it to the light, and then getting the appropriate treatment for them.
And what is that number?
Our number is 972-548-5570.
And great. What about hours of operation?
Hours of operation, we're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
All right. John-Mark, any final thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, hey, I just have, again, I'm super passionate about this stuff. Recovery is the priority of my life. It's like I really want, young people to, this is a tough time right now. There's a lot of stuff going on. And, I want young people to thrive, not just survive. And I, want them to live a life that, they don't feel like they've got to medicate stuff. And, I think this is only going to get worse. This fentanyl is going to be, it's going to be really, really bad. We watched it become the #1 killer, in just a few years. Just due to the economics of it and the scope, I think it's going to be it's going to be a big crisis. And we know the opioid epidemic. 77,000 people died from opioids in 2017. That was kind of the pinnacle of that. But with this fentanyl, I don't know. But education's the key, awareness is the key, and the more we can do, to talk about this stuff and get it out there, better off we're all going to be.
Well, John-Mark, we appreciate you coming today and talking to us on Plano Police True Crimes, and thank you for all that you do in the community.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here. Glad you had me.